Now, starting with today's topic, the states of matter. This is the second part of the lesson and the most important part of the lesson where the question comes mostly from this topic. Okay, so state of matter. Now, you all students might already be knowing about different state of matter since you are very small, right? You know that particles and substances are present in either solid, liquid, or gaseous state, right? So why are we learning this again in 9th standard, right? So the reason to this is that we are going to learn this in great depth. हम लोग एकदम डिटेल में सीखने वाले हैं, and we'll try to understand in the molecular level that what causes for an object to be in a solid state, liquid state, or gaseous state, and we'll try to differentiate all of these three state of matter. I hope so. You all are ready. This is part 2 of chapter number 1, and we'll be starting with this topic right itself. Okay. Moving on, आगे देखते हैं. Now, state of matter. Let's talk about state of matter. The state of matter is a state in which the matter is present. Okay. So at room temperature, what we can say is at room temperature, you can see matters in either of these three state of matter. What are these three state of matter? Solid, liquid, and gaseous. These are three state of matter which are present in the room temperature. Okay. So let's see. Physically, matter is classified into three types. And then what we can say is they are solid, they are liquid, and we have gaseous. Okay, but at some extreme temperatures we have different set of matter as well. For example, if we talk about very hot particles, extremely hot particles, the particles will tend to move in a different set of matter, which is none of these three. It is called as plasma. क्या कहेंगे इसको हम लोग? We'll call it as plasma. Okay, rather if you bring down the temperature of a particle very low, extremely low, if you make the object extremely cold, the particle will be moving to yet another state of matter which is called as Bose-Einstein condensate. We'll be learning about that also. Okay, so matter can even exist in two more states. What are those? It is plasma, super hot gases, and see the matter which is present at a very high temperature like sun. Okay, and the next one is Bose-Einstein condensate. Okay, in which it is artificially created state of matter which is at very low temperature. Okay, so आप बोलोगे सर फ्रिज में ऐसा होगा क्या? फ्रीजर में अगर हमने फ्री पार्टिकल को रखा तो क्या वो Bose-Einstein condenser में जाएगा? No, it is very low temperature. Okay, तो आपके फ्रिज या फ्रीजर के अंदर ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. Okay, it requires very high equipments, and पूरे वर्ल्ड में सिर्फ दो ही ऐसे लैबोरेटरीज है जहाँ पे Bose-Einstein condensate बन सकते हैं. Okay, so it requires that much amount of instruments and scientific equipments to make a Bose-Einstein condensate. Okay, it's very hard to make that. Okay, plasma can be obtained anywhere, right? जैसे कि आपकी मॉम जब कुकिंग करते हैं तब जब वो गैस को ऑन करते हैं, जब वो गैस जलता है तो वो जो फायर होता है वो that's nothing but it's plasma. Okay, तो इस तरह हम लोग के पास अलग अलग state of matter होते हैं. Okay, so whenever it is asked that what are the three state of matter present at room temperature, you need to say that it is solid, liquid, and gases. Okay, and those state of matter which you can obtain at extreme temperatures, either extremely hot temperature or extremely low cold temperature, that the state of matter you can get is plasma or Bose-Einstein condensate. Okay, I hope so you've understood it well. Okay, so in our lesson we'll be most of all focusing on solid, liquid, and gases, and we'll be learning about these state of matter in great detail. इनके बारे में हम लोग डिटेल में पढ़ने वाले हैं. ठीक है, fine. So moving on, आगे देखते हैं क्या मिलता है हम लोग को. Okay, so the first state of matter that we're going to learn is the solid state. Okay, and to understand solid state, we have a small picture representing the arrangement of particles in a solid state. Okay, so this is how the arrangement of particles you can observe inside a solid state. If you see each red circle over here is representing a single particle, and all of these particles are closely packed to each other. They are like closely packed. There is minimum amount of space between them. उनके बीच में जो space वो minimum है, right? It can't be lesser. इससे कम नहीं हो सकता है, right? They are exactly sticking to each other, right? So if you see, the space between the particles is least. When you talk about solid state, the state between the particles is the least, minimum hota hai. Okay. The next property is what? The force of attraction between particles is maximum. Why the spaces are least? Because the force of attraction is the maximum. अगर force of attraction maximum होगा, तो सब particle एक दूसरे को क्या करेंगे? Attract करके उसे एक दूसरे के पास में रखेंगे. They will be like packed very closely to each other. Okay. Then the kinetic energy of the particle is least. I have already taught you that kinetic energy is due to the movement of a particle, right? So since these the particles in the solid don't have enough space to move around here and there, the kinetic energy of these particles will be the least. सबसे कम होगा. क्यों? क्योंकि इनके पास इधर उधर मूव होने के लिए sufficient space नहीं होता है, and that is why the kinetic energy of the particles in solid state is the least, the minimum. Okay. Then the next, particles of solid are closely packed together. They cannot move much. I've already explained this to you. Okay. Moving on. Now, what are the properties of solid? So solids have definite shape and volume. Okay. So most of all of the solids have definite shape as well as definite volume. Okay. So once a solid have given a particular shape, it will not change its shape until and unless an external force is applied to it. So if we talk about properties of a solid, the first property is that solids have definite shape as well as volume. Okay. Next thing. Okay. If you see an example of a book or a pen, irrespective to where you keep the book or a pen, its shape always remains the same. If you put the book on your books inside your bookshelf, or you keep it on a table, or you keep it inside your bag, irrespective to its position where you keep it, the shape of the book will remain the same. And that is why we can say that the shape of the book is definite. Okay, and so is the volume. The volume is nothing but the amount of space taken by an object. एक object कितना space लेता है, उसको हम लोग क्या कहते हैं? Volume कहते हैं. So the amount of space taken by this book will always be the same, irrespective to where it might be present. Okay. So what we've learned about is the properties of solid. The first property that we've learned about is that solids have definite shape as well as volume. आगे देखते हैं हम लोग क्या मिलता है सीखने को. So they have distinct boundaries. Okay, what do you mean by distinct boundaries? Neither they can get collapsed or they can shrink by their own, nor they can expand by their own. Okay, so the shrinking or the expansion of any object, any solid object, is dependent upon whether if any external forces is applied on it or not. Okay, so until unless there is no application of force, their boundaries will always be distinct. It will be the same as it is. Okay, for example, अगर आपने एक मेटल का बॉक्स को एक रूम में रख दिया एंड वो रूम का आपने 20 साल से कोई भी उस रूम के अंदर नहीं गया है, एंड हम लोग ये मान के चलते हैं कि कोई भी ऐसी इवेंट नहीं हुआ जिसकी वजह से वो बॉक्स हिल सकता है, so that box will still be there even after 20 years. उधर ही रहेगा और वही शेप का रहेगा, वही साइज का रहेगा, राइट? सो इस चीज की वजह से हम लोग ये बोल सकते हैं that solid objects have distinct boundaries. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. And they have definite shape also. आगे देखते हैं. The next one is solids are almost incompressible. So to understand this property first, what we will do is we'll understand the meaning of compression. What do you mean by compression? To squeeze something. Whenever you're squeezing something, you're compressing it, correct? So if you are saying incompressible, it means that solids cannot be squeezed. आप उसको दबा नहीं सकते हो, आप उसको छोटा नहीं कर सकते हो, right? So this is one of the property of solid, that they are mostly incompressible. It means that it cannot be squeezed down. So you will ask, sir, why is it so? So if you look at the structure of particles or the arrangement of particles in solid, you might see that there is minimum spaces between them, or there is no spaces at all between them, right, between the particles. And that is why even if you try to apply force to squeeze them, there is no place for the particle to go. ultimately what will happen is they might not get squeezed enough, right? So hence what we can say is solids are incompressible, तो उसको हम लोग compress नहीं कर सकते. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. So for example, if you take a stick and you try to squeeze it, if you try to squeeze it, will that stick will be squeezed? क्या वो compress हो जाएगा? The answer to this question is no, right? Even if you try to squeeze, it will not, bro. So the what we can say is negligible compressibility. Negligible का मतलब क्या होता है? It is close to zero, or it is like very near to zero. Okay. So their volume does not change by any outside force. Even if you apply any of outside force, the volume will still remain the same, and therefore it is non-compressible. The next point is solids are rigid. Rigid refers to the property of solid where they do not change their shape. वो अपने shape को जरा भी change नहीं करते हैं, even after applying force. So for example, if you take the upper piece of the hammer और आप उसको बहुत जोर से hit भी करते हो, so what will happen is the shape of the upper end of the hammer will not change. Why? Because it is very hard enough that it might not get its shape might not get changed. Even if we talk about the hardest material in this world, the diamond, अगर आप diamond को बहुत जोर से हथौड़ी से मारोगे, अगर आप उसको hammer करोगे, what will happen is diamond will also not change its shape, and that is why what we can say is that diamond is also rigid. So rigid are all those solids, uh, all those solids which on applying of force will still not change its shape. Okay. So see over here, we have an iron rod over here, and the person, a baby, is trying to hit it hard with a hammer. So even if we are hitting it hard with a hammer, what will happen is the shape will not change, and therefore what we can say is it is rigid. Okay, so unbending and inflexible. Okay, so it cannot be bent or it is not flexible also. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. So example of all these are logs of wood. It can be rod of metal, or it can be hard rocks or ores. Okay. Okay. So these are all the materials which have rigidity property as a solid. Okay. Apart from that, what we can say is solids, their shape does not change by any external force. Okay. Let's now talk about next. Some solids are elastic. Okay, so if some solids are not rigid, they can be elastic. Okay, so what do you mean by elastic? Elastic refers to a property of solids that when you apply force, the shape changes, but as soon as you leave it or stop applying force to that, the object will again uh, convert to its original shape. It will again gain its original shape. An example to that is rubber band. When you stretch a rubber band, its shape changes, right? But as soon as you leave it, if you leave it loose, what will happen? It will come back to its original shape. That property of solid is called as elasticity. Okay. So what we can say, some solids do change their shapes when force is applied and regain their shape when force is removed. That property of solids are called as elasticity. Moving on, आगे देखते हैं. Rubber band is an example. Okay. Some solids are plastic. Okay. What is the property of plasticity? So plasticity is a property of solids where when you apply force to an object, the shape of an object will change, and even after you remove the shape, even after you remove the force, the shape will remain the same. वो उसी shape में रहेगा, वापस अपने original shape में नहीं आएगा. Example to that is clay. अगर आप पॉटर्स को देखोगे जो पॉट्स बनाते हैं, तो जब वो लोग क्ले को मोल्ड करते हैं तो लोग शेप चेंज करते हैं उसको, करेक्ट, बराबर. एंड जब उसका शेप चेंज होता है, जब फोर्स अप्लाई करते हैं तो शेप चेंज होता है, एंड जैसे वो क्ले ड्राई हो जाता है, इट बिकम्स हार्डन, एंड फिर बाद में वो अपने शेप को ओरिजिनल शेप में वापस नहीं आएगा. सो दैट प्रॉपर्टी इज प्लास्टिक और प्लास्टिसिटी. ओके, सो सॉलिड्स कैन बी अवेलेबल in three different properties. It can be rigid, इट कैन बी इलास्टिक और इट कैन बी प्लास्टिक। रिजिड में शेप चेंज ही नहीं होगा, इलास्टिक में शेप चेंज होगा फोर्स अप्लाई होने के बाद, बट जैसे फोर्स का आप रिलीज करोगे तो अपने पुराने पोजीशन पे या पुराने शेप में आ जाता है। एंड अगर हम लोग प्लास्टिक में देखेंगे तो आप अगर फोर्स अप्लाई करोगे तो शेप चेंज होगा, और फोर्स को रिलीज करने के बाद भी अपने ओरिजिनल शेप में नहीं आने वाला है। Okay, so these are all the properties of solid state. Okay, so यहाँ पे definition: some solids do change their shape when force is applied and does not regain their shape when force is removed. That is called as plasticity. Okay, so dough is an example of that. Now let's learn about liquid state. हम लोग liquid state के बारे में देखेंगे. Okay, so if you compare the structural arrangement of particles in liquid, you might observe that there are huge distances or more distances as compared to the particles in solid, right? And because of that, you can continue two properties here itself, that they are moderately or loosely packed to each other. The particles are loosely packed to each other, and because they're loosely packed to each other, the reason behind that is the force of attraction between these particles is relatively less as compared to solids. Okay, so let's see the properties. The space between the particles is moderate. You can already see it with the diagram, right? The space between the particles is moderate. Okay, the next thing, force of attraction between the particles is less. Why the space is moderate? Because the force of attraction is less. अगर force of attraction ज़्यादा होता तो ये लोग closely packed होते, ultimately क्या बन जाता? Solid बन जाता, right? And this is how you can say that liquids have less force of attraction between the particles. Okay. Next, the kinetic energy of the particle is less. Okay, kinetic energy अगर हम सॉलिड में देखें तो वो लीस्ट था, सबसे कम था, पर अगर आप लोग लिक्विड में देखोगे तो लिक्विड में कंपैरेटिवली ज्यादा है। तो यहाँ पे बस लेस दिया है, लीस्ट नहीं बोला है। ओके, आगे देखते हैं। In liquids, particles have a moderate distance between each other, so particle can move. Now, because there are empty spaces between the particles of liquid, these particles can move a bit more freely as compared to solids. Solids के पास empty spaces था ही नहीं, इस वजह से आपका movement बहुत restricted था। बट अगर हम लोग लिक्विड स्टेट के बारे में बात करेंगे तो लिक्विड स्टेट में क्या था, क्या है, यहाँ पे स्पेसेस ज्यादा है, एंड बिकॉज देयर इज कंपैरेटिवली मोर स्पेसेस एज कंपेयर्ड टू सॉलिड स्टेट, द पार्टिकल्स ऑफ लिक्विड कैन मूव freely as compared to solid. Now, example of liquid states are like water. Water contained in different containers. So here are the properties of liquids. First property: liquids have a definite volume but indefinite shape. Okay, definite volume का मतलब क्या होता है? मतलब अगर आप लोग 500 ml of water लेते हो तो ये 500 ml water जितनी जगह एक टब बाथटब में लेगा, या वो एक पाउच में लेगा, या वो एक बॉटल में लेगा, या वो एक कंटेनर में लेगा, अब कोई भी कंटेनर के अंदर उसको डालो, 500 ml of water will be taking only fixed amount of volume. वो fixed amount of क्या उसके स्पेस को ऑक्यूपाई करेगा, एंड दैट इज व्हाई व्हाट वी कैन से इज दैट लिक्विड्स हैव डेफिनाइट वॉल्यूम. व्हाट डू यू रिमेंबर वॉल्यूम? इट इज द अमाउंट ऑफ स्पेस taken by an object. Okay, so irrespective to where you have inserted the liquid to, the amount of space occupied by that amount of liquid will always be the same, and that is why it is called we can say that liquids have definite volume. But its shape is indefinite. Its shape is indefinite means what? अगर आप लोगों ने उसको बाथटब में, पानी को बाथटब में डाला तो उसका शेप किस में हो जाएगा? It will turn into the shape of a bathtub. If you have inserted water inside a water bottle, so it will take the shape of the water bottle. If you insert it inside a glass, then it will take the shape of a glass. If you insert it inside a test tube, the shape of the water will be of the test tube. So irrespective to which container you have inserted the liquid to, the liquid will tend to take the shape of the container itself, though the volume will be definite. It means that it will take the same amount of space to whatever container you might have inserted to it. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. Moving ahead, next देखते हैं. Liquids cannot be compressed easily. Now over here this point is saying it cannot be compressed easily. It means that if you apply sufficient amount of force, it can be compressed, correct? Okay, now why is it so? Because the intermolecular spaces between the liquid particles is more, correct? So even if you try to compress it, अगर आप उसको squeeze करने की कोशिश करोगे, the particles will be having some space where it can go to, right? Therefore what we can say is they are slightly compressible. Slightly मतलब क्या, थोड़ा सा compressible है वो. Fine, आगे देखते हैं. All liquids flow. कोई भी liquids है वो flow होगा, whether it is water, kerosene, petrol, it can be shampoo, it can be oil, it can be honey, it can be medicinal syrups, it can be anything, right? So any liquid substance tend to flow. Okay, now how much does it flow? It depends upon how much thick that liquid is, and that thickness is called as viscosity. क्या कहेंगे इसको हम लोग? Viscosity. We'll be learning about that in the next slide. Okay, so whenever any substance tend to flow from one place to another, that property is called as fluidity. So what we can say is liquids are fluid. Okay, it means they can flow from one place to another. Okay, solids are not fluid. Why? Because they cannot flow from one place to another. आगे देखते हैं. Okay, so what we can do is we can take 4 containers. We'll have an example or to understand fluidity properly. So for that, what we'll do is we'll take 4 transparent containers, okay, and we'll insert scales in slanted position in each of the container, okay, in this manner. Okay, later on what we'll do is take 4 different types of liquids. हम लोग 4 अलग टाइप के liquids ले लेते हैं. Okay, milk, honey, kerosene and water. Okay, इन सभी चीज को हम लोग आराम से इसके अंदर pour करेंगे. Okay, so we have water, we have honey, we have milk, we have kerosene over here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try to pour in each of the container. ठीक है, allow these liquids to flow down. Observe the speed at which they come down. अगर आप सभी की स्पीड को देखोगे तो सब अलग अलग स्पीड में रहेगा. आप मुझे बताओ सबसे स्लो किस में रहेगा? That will be in honey. And सबसे फास्ट किस में होगा? That will be in kerosene. Okay, so it depends upon the thickness of the liquid that how much easily can it flow. The more the thickness, the slower the rate of flow, and the less the thickness, the greater will be the rate of flow. Okay, so once you pour it down to each of the container, you will see that kerosene has reached much faster, and then you have water, then you have milk, then you have honey. It means the least thick liquid over here is kerosene, and the most thick liquid is honey, correct? So kerosene comes down first, followed by water, then milk, and then last honey. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. This is due to the property of viscosity. इसको हम लोग क्या कहते हैं? Viscosity. The thickness of liquids by which the rate of flow is determined is called as viscosity. Okay, so over here what we can say is less viscous liquid flow easily. Since kerosene was less thick, वो कम गाढ़ा था, एकदम पतला सा liquid था, that is why what we can say is it is less viscous, it can flow very easily. Whereas when you talk about honey was most viscous and it took a lot of time for it to flow. आगे देखते हैं. The next and the last state of matter which is present at room temperature is the gaseous state. Okay, and if you see the structural arrangement of particles in gas, you will see that they are not arranged in a proper or definite manner, and they have very huge spaces between each particles, right? The space between them is very huge. And why? What might be the reason for these huge spaces? Because the forces of attraction of particles in gases is very less. क्योंकि force of attraction बहुत कम है, इसी वजह से वो लोग एक दूसरे से अट्रैक्ट कर ही नहीं पाते हैं, and that is why they are very far apart from each other. I hope so you've understood it right. Okay, so हम लोग इसी properties देख लेते हैं. Since gaseous particle have high space between them, they move freely. क्योंकि उनके पास बहुत सारे spaces है, they move freely here and there. Moving on, आगे देखते हैं. Space between the particles is highest. Okay, when you talk about all of the state of matter, the state of matter which has highest space between particles is the gases. Okay, the other one, next property, force of attraction between particle is least. I've already explained this to you. Next, the kinetic energy of the particle is highest because these particles will be having enough space to move freely here and there. There is more amount of movement, and because there is more movement, these particles will be having more kinetic energy. आगे देखते हैं. What are the properties of gases? First of all, gas do not have definite shape and don't have definite volume also, right? अगर हम लोग लिक्विड्स का देखेंगे तो उनके पास डेफिनेट वॉल्यूम तो था बट शेप डेफिनेट नहीं था, राइट? यहाँ पे तो दोनों भी डेफिनेट नहीं है. इट डजंट हैज डेफिनेट शेप, डजंट हैज डेफिनेट वॉल्यूम. व्हाई? So let us take an example. Okay, let's talk about shape on the first hand. If you take gases and अगर आप लोगों ने उसको गैस कंटेनर के अंदर डाल दिया तब उसका शेप किसका हो जाएगा? गैस कंटेनर का हो जाएगा. ओके, अगर आप लोगों ने उसको बड़े कंप्रेसिंग टैंक के अंदर डाल दिए तो उसका शेप किसका हो जाएगा? कंप्रेसिंग टैंक हो जाएगा. अगर आप लोगों ने गैस को रूम में डाल दिए तो गैस का शेप किसका हो जाएगा? रूम का हो जाएगा. So irrespective to where you put the gas to, the gas will take its the shape of the container, right? Now, how come you say that the shape that the volume of gases are indefinite? Volume का मतलब क्या होता है? That the amount of space taken by an object, correct? अब यहाँ पे gases fixed amount of space नहीं लेते हैं. It simply occupies the entire space available to it. जैसे for example, अगर आप लोग सोचो थोड़ा सा सोचो 10 ग्राम ऑफ गैस लिया, ठीक है? If you took 10 हम लोग ग्राम में नहीं गिनते वैसे गैस को, गैस आर measured in milliliters. तो सोचो मैंने 10 ml ऑफ गैस लिया और उसे एक छोटे से कंटेनर, इतने से कंटेनर के अंदर डाल दिया, ठीक है? तब क्या करेगा वो गैस? इतने से कंटेनर को कंप्लीटली ऑक्यूपाई करेगा, ठीक है? भले उसमें स्पेसेस बहुत सारे रहेंगे बट उसको कंप्लीटली ऑक्यूपाई करके रखेगा, ठीक है? अब जैसे वो कंटेनर को मैंने ओपन कर दिया, अब उसका कंटेनर क्या हो गया? पूरा रूम हो गया, करेक्ट? ठीक है, तो जैसे वो रूम में निकलेगा अब पूरे रूम को वो ऑक्यूपाई करेगा. इसका मतलब क्या कि उतना ही अमाउंट ऑफ गैस इतने से जगह में भी आया था और उतने से अमाउंट ऑफ गैस ने पूरे रूम को भी ऑक्यूपाई किया, राइट? एंड दैट इज व्हाई द वॉल्यूम ऑफ गैसेस इज नॉट डेफिनाइट. आई होप सो यू हैव अंडरस्टूड इट वेल. आगे देखते हैं. आगे देखते हैं. So if your mom cooks food, okay, what will happen is the fragrance of the food that have been cooked will be moving or spreading throughout the room. पूरे रूम में क्यों फैल किए? क्योंकि वो पूरे रूम के स्पेसेस को क्या कर देता है? ऑक्यूपाई कर देता है, ठीक है? ठीक है, आगे देखते हैं. सो आपके मॉम जब फूड प्रिपेयर करते हैं तो फूड का जो फ्रेगनेंस होता है वो पूरे रूम में ऑक्यूपाई हो जाता है, ठीक है? ये किसकी वजह से होता है? बिकॉज द वॉल्यूम taken by gas is not definite. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. So आपको स्मेल से पता चल जाता है कि आपकी मॉम क्या बना रहे हैं. इस डायग्राम के हिसाब से यहाँ पे बॉय को पता चल जाता है कि उसकी मम्मी पिज्जा बना रही है, करेक्ट? आगे देखते हैं. Smell of delicious pizza can be felt from distance due to what? Due to gases flow. They show the property of fluidity. Gases also flow as liquids. So that is why we can say that gases move from one place to another and they have the property of fluidity. आगे देखते हैं. Because particles are constantly moving. ठीक है, यहाँ पर moving आएगा, आप लोग समझ के देखो, ठीक है? So since the particles of gases are moving continuously, they show the properties of fluidity. आगे देखते हैं. Gases move very fast and can be stopped by the solid walls of container, right? Gases जो है वो solid से पास नहीं हो पाते हैं क्योंकि gases को कुछ स्पेस लगता है किसी चीज से आर पार जाने के लिए. Because there is no enough space in solids, so they can restrict the movement of gases. Okay, इस चीज की वजह से जो gases है वो solid wall से आर पार नहीं जाती है. आगे देखते हैं. Next देखते हैं. Gases can be easily compressed and squeezed together because gases has huge intermolecular spaces. उसके पास बहुत सारे intermolecular spaces होता है. हम क्या बोल सकते हैं? That they can be squeezed into very small place. Ultimately its volume can be changed. Okay, so they are highly compressible. Next आगे देखते हैं. Example, if we talk about a balloon or if you talk about the effervescence taken out by soda, these all are an example of gases in our day-to-day life. Okay, now let's have a summary of what we have learned till now. what we can say is solids, liquids and gas can all diffuse in liquid. सॉलिड लिक्विड गैस ये सब किसके अंदर डिफ्यूज हो सकता है, लिक्विड के अंदर डिफ्यूज होता है, मतलब सॉलिड लिक्विड के अंदर मिक्स हो सकता है, लिक्विड लिक्विड में मिक्स हो सकता है, गैस लिक्विड के अंदर मिक्स हो सकता है. ओके, रेट ऑफ डिफ्यूजन ऑफ लिक्विड आर हायर देन दैट ऑफ सॉलिड. सबसे ज्यादा अच्छी तरीके से, मतलब अगर हम लोग सॉलिड एंड लिक्विड को कंपेयर करते हैं, सो डिफ्यूजन ज्यादा अच्छे किसमें होगा, लिक्विड में होगा. क्यों? क्योंकि उसमें मूवमेंट फ्रीली होता है. ओके, this is because in the liquid state particles move freely and have greater space between each other as compared to particles in the solid state. I hope so you have understood it well. Okay, आगे हम लोग देखते हैं. So let's compare and contrast these three states of matter, and then with this we'll end up today's lecture. Okay, fine. So हम लोग इसके आगे देखते हैं हम लोग को क्या मिलता है. So when you talk about the properties, so हम लोग इसके comparison करते हैं, देखते हैं हम लोग क्या मिलते हैं यहाँ पे. So let us revise what we have learned till now. So let us talk about shape. तो solid के पास fixed shape होगा, liquid के पास no fixed shape होगा, और gas के पास भी fixed shape नहीं होगा, right? So when you talk about volume, solids will be having fixed shape, volume, liquids will be having fixed volume, and gases will not be having fixed volume. The next thing is interparticle forces. So the solids will be having strong intermolecular forces, liquids will be having less or moderate intermolecular forces, and gases will be having least or very weak intermolecular forces. Okay, the next thing is spaces between particles. Solids will be having least spaces between this particle, liquids will be having moderate spaces between the particles, gases will be having most spaces of particle. Okay, आगे देखते हैं. Next is fluidity. Solids do not show the property of fluidity, liquids show fluidity, gas also show fluidity, they can flow easily, right? Okay, आगे देखते हैं. Compressibility. Because solids have no intermolecular spaces, they cannot be compressed and therefore they are not compressible. So liquids are hardly or sparingly compressible. So यहाँ पे भी हम लोगों ने not compressible लिखा, but it can be, but very slightly. Okay, it is slightly compressible. Gases are compressible. Okay, next, the ability to fill the container. Solids do not fill the container, liquids fill the container, gas fill the container. The next one, density. The density, what is the density? The amount of particles present in a unit volume. अगर छोटे से जगह में बहुत सारे materials present होते हैं तो density high हो जाती है, और अगर कम रहेगा तो density low हो जाती है. So since solids, the particles of solids are closely packed to each other, in a very small volume there are huge amount of particles present, and therefore the density of solids are high, the liquids are less, and the gases are very less. Okay, very low. So this was all the differentiation of different state of matter, and with this we end up with today's lecture. I hope so you have understood it everything very well.